Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome welcome all to the RTR United podcast. This is our 5th podcast recording. This one we are encompassing a couple of theories. These theories are going to be pretty much stemming off of some theological, maybe hypothetical ongoings in society today and in society in the past. With me, I have the one and only Trinity, as always.
What's up?
Nice and we have, thank you, sir. And then we also have a philosophy major coming out of Columbia. Columbia, Missouri, that is. Mr. Travis.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's nice to have you.
I appreciate it.
I know you personally.
Yeah.
So I know that me and you have had talks before, and because of your philosophy, I thought you would be a good take for this podcast.
Okay.
RoundTableRejects, what we really pride ourselves on as a company and as an entertainment and every aspect that we're doing is free speech, free knowledge, free ideas. It's back in the hands of the people type shit, and that's what we really push here.
I respect it.
So, I know some of your personal beliefs, and I'll let you kind of dive into that personally when you're ready to in this podcast. But, some people have their opinions on it and stuff. And me personally, with my mom and her whole background, I could have opinions on it too.
Right.
But RTR is about choosing free thought, free expression. That is the only way to truly find understanding in the long run, at least from my perspective. So,
and be open and experiencing something else that's not what you have.
Wisely said. Experiencing something else, that kind of leads us into today's topic, which is the new age. The new age is all about new ideas, expanding into something else, something new, the new age, that is. So what do we got, guys? What do we see in the new age? Just a couple of thoughts stemming out. What is our new age looking like? Like, you think future is in maybe like 50, no, we'll go 30 years from now. What is that looking like to us? Where we're kind of in our age and we're developed as age goes, we're kind of developed. What is 30 years looking out from now?
I see them as I really see two possibilities, and it's really based around ecological damage.
okay.
Either most of us are dead,
All right.
due to climate change, or by most of us I mean most animals.
Okay.
Biodiversity plummets.
Population drops all across.
Yeah. There's that, or we're doing ecologically better, which requires, at this point, it requires almost a restructuring of a society a little bit.
Yeah.
Of how we think about nature and our part in it.
Our general surroundings, I'd say.
Yes, and that includes how we look at other people, because they're in our surroundings.
Exactly.
But I don't think one looks a little more likely than the other. The ecological damage seems
currently right now.
Okay, so with the restructuring, so I kind of want to see your perspective on renewable resources. So if we were to restructure the world in a way that renewable resources were more of a play and a part in it, how do you think that would help nature, like help us survive? Because you're saying we could like completely bomb out, drop out in 30 years, we're gone with, it's over with. So if we were to focus on more renewable, do you think that would help a lot more? Like, it'll paint a better picture for us?
1,000%. I think we're walking headfirst into hell, and we're not really thinking about it. And I think that's the issue. And it's because it's not even CO2, which CO2 is a big problem, but it's cutting down trees, destroying habitats, poaching. It's plastic in our oceans that we have to manually clean out because it'll never disappear. Whole islands that they've now found of plastic. It's developing the world to a point where things like food and water are human rights that you
Okay,
give them
so
because
so
they're
I have
human.
so I have a question that may be for all of us. Do you think it would be easier to like fix all of our problems that we have today or start from scratch? Like one society just takes the leap on it, a smaller society takes the leap on it and does it perfectly and then does it so that the rest of the world could mirror it, or we go in and we fix the problems ourselves?
So personally, I kind of see like a two-step back before we take a step forward solution. I think we should go back to more rudimentary systems that we've actually classified as, oh, that's not cool, that's not worthy of our time and attention. I think that that actually had value, and there was a reason why our ancestors used that for 10,000 years up until the last 200 years until it was deemed unworthy because of an industrial revolution which saw very few people become very wealthy, and you saw a where there was already a change in classes, you saw an even more change in classes, and now there's them producing items to give us what they had back when they had previous wealth. When that was the luxurious item, now you can get that for $40 or sometimes $120, $500. And now what they consider a luxury item is something like $5 million. So it's still like a new
Using the structure that the ancients, the very cost reductive structure that the ancients have already had in order to fund this society.
essentially, yeah, to nourish a society, to allow us to be where we are today. I think we kind of need to take a couple steps back, because if we think of the earth like our mother, it is Mother Earth, we call it, right? So
Right.
how does that look on the human spirit and like humanity as a whole? Imagine you have your own mother, and your mother has fostered your growth and development to be where you are today, and you're beating her, and you're abusing her, and you're using her body, and you're not paying any mind and care and attention to like why you're here in the first place, how it even allowed you to be here.
Okay, so what would your future look like in 30 years? How would your future be looking?
I kind of agree with Travis in the aspect that there's the two definitely yin and yang factors at play here, where you can definitely see one where there is a destitute society, a lot of destruction all around, and you're kind of seeing that in Ukraine, in Israel, and Palestine right now. You're seeing the onset of what could become a global crisis. So I think, but on the other hand, if we go towards more renewable options and restructuring society, and unfortunately governments don't like this idea because it puts them out of power, and that's why they don't really fund and speak out about these ideas. It doesn't push what they individually achieve. So it's more about the people as a whole, society. We have a global connection now. So now we have resources, and we know Maui had the fires. Well, somebody has an excess of something that can help in that moment. And then they use that. And then there's people who are skilled workers of all environments, and all they really need is a translator, and they're on station. And if we could actually divert resources instead of fighting each other and building up boundaries and borders to kill each other, if we had literally militaries made to save each other.
Reutilizing what we have in order to protect instead of to damage.
Say that one more time. Re-say that for me, restructure that for me.
I said utilizing the things that we already have, like the military put in place, like the systems that we already have to make this society function, but utilizing them in a way to nurture the planet instead of to tear down or destroy the planet.
Yeah, so essentially diverting the resources and the goals and intention behind the resources. The resources are there to help the earth, but the people right now diverting the resources are not worried about helping it. What do you think, Travis? What's your thoughts on like kind of what I'm bringing up and what me and Kurt are talking about?
I think you said you gotta take two steps back to take a step forward, and I think I disagree.
Okay.
I think we gotta look back and jump hella forward.
Okay.
I think the problem is that looking back and admiring civilizations of the past requires looking back and also accidentally admiring the problems of the past.
I hear you.
Because some of the very things that became good things in the past were only because they were called problems caused by the past. You think of like the noble knight. Well, if there was no war, there would be no ideal of a noble knight.
Right.
So problems of the past create these. And so,
okay.
So the problem, I think, is that, yeah, we can look at the past, take the good things. Like, and that's what we were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the Soviet Union was the greatest country ever, but it did do good things, and it did do bad things.
Yeah.
And so if I can recognize that, and I can just try to take the good things,
okay,
it requires leaving behind the bad things. But for that, you have to understand them down to the bone.
And then people have to like unify and understand. Like, so let's say, because I have a friend who lives somewhere far east, I'll just say, and you know, he might have a different perspective and a different take on what the unification process is.
Right.
So then we get into that process and that problem as well.
Exactly.
Kurt, what do you think on that?
Well, this kind of jumps into what I believe that society will look like in the future. I believe that it would take a total consciousness shift to move forward. Like, using both of your aspects, I feel like the thought process would definitely have to change, and we can definitely take new things, but we're going to have to let go of so much in order for that thought process to change, because it's really us all putting our heads out of our butts and realizing that we need to move in a united direction, because we're too focused on division, and divided they fall. Divided you will fall.
Now I'm going to ask you guys a question. What is united to you, and what is united to you, Kurt?
Okay, so united to me would be a unified goal in mind, and a unified thing because you have to have both aspects, negative and positive.
What is the unified goal in mind for you? Like, because RTR is all about unification, and if we're unifying goals, we all have to understand the goals of each other.
But it's a yin and yang aspect, because once to develop a unified goal in mind, there has to be something that you don't want. You feel me? What are you trying to not get stuck in? So that's the yang, the yang aspect of it. The yin aspect would be the goal in mind, but the yang aspect is what are you letting go of? What are you trying to not be in a say? So in order to figure out where you want to go, you have to realize where you are and where you don't want to be.
So where is that for you?
Okay. So me, I believe that we should have free will. That's just my standing. I feel like we should have free will, but people misconstrued my version of free will. My version of free will is revolutionary, because I think if I will to fly, I should be able to fly right now. And that might be a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. So to know where I am in that is, right now I necessarily can't fly. But it doesn't mean that I should be somewhere where I don't want to be and be like, oh, bro, you'll never be able to fly. Because that's where I don't want to be, is in that level of, no, that can't happen. When will is free, yes, it can happen. What would it require? That's then the mission. The mission now is, what will it require? What do I have to do in place to be ordered to fly?
Okay. Now, Travis, what do you think for, like, when you have unification in mind? What's your kind of like idea of that?
I think unification, I don't really see it as unifying. I see it as changing a dynamic
Okay.
And that dynamic is between individualism and communitarianism.
Okay.
I think
Elaborate on those two.
individualism is basically a person who might believe that the main focus of somebody's life, or somebody's life, is the individual, their personal. A communitarian would be someone who would say that the main focus of somebody's life is the community.
Okay.
Strictly the community before anything else.
Right.
So even before themselves, I wouldn't be that. I'd be a moderate. I would say that we have to give our community, which now as a superorganism across the world includes the planet.
Right.
Like, we're basically neighbors with Russia at this point. Our
Yeah.
planet is not that big.
We could fly there in 2 hours
Right.
if we wanted to, or less if we were using the right equipment.
Right. And so we have to consider ourselves, but also we have to consider all of our neighbors.
Do to others as you'd want yourself kind of situation.
Yes, but even in a mutual aid sense,
Yeah.
that the same. If I want ketchup for my fries, that
Okay.
requires recognizing that other people will want ketchup for their fries,
Right.
which requires then going, well, since they want it and I want it, we should be able to have it.
Right.
Unless, of course, there's a reason for you not to have it. Like, of course, you can make that argument for slaves.
Or there's like a drought or something, or like a tomato famine
Right.
or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where
And I think this is where I would disagree with Kurt, is that it only works with our material needs. Like you just said, you can't have ketchup without tomatoes if there's a drought or something.
Yeah.
But you also can't have existence with. You can't exist just as a consciousness. You have to exist as something material simultaneously with your consciousness. So you might be free, but you are limited by your biology at the same time. I don't think you could. I think there's that, but I think there's. If say you want to fly, creating something to fly is not really.
But okay, so how do you feel about like astral bodies? If you can do it in the astral body, then you can have your physical being mirror your astral body.
Do you believe in the astral?
I do not.
Okay.
I think it's easy. I think it's hard. I would say at this very moment, because it could always change, I'm an existentialist.
Okay.
And an existentialist is a phenomenologist, and a phenomenologist would say that since that is your experience, since you experience something like an astral plane, I can't really say it doesn't exist. Because if you're experiencing something, that's reality for you.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
for you, it is very much real.
Yeah.
Just like if someone was schizophrenic, I couldn't really say what they're not saying is. I couldn't say that it wasn't real
Okay.
because they're experiencing something,
Right.
and it's very real to them.
Right.
So I would say that. I would say the only way I would ever believe in something astral or something afterlife is if I had experienced it. And I think that's the only way. Because I would much rather put my bets in the world I experience than a world I have never experienced.
But can I interject?
Yeah.
So, I personally do believe in the astral as well. But I kind of see it like, because you say you don't see the particles of oxygen, but it influences our everyday life.
Right.
It is as important as the physical, but that is something that's not physical. Oxygen has no body, but oxygen is just as important to the life of creation itself. You know,
Right.
all these chemicals come into play. These are all energy forms themselves, and
I would say that oxygen is physical. I might not be able to see oxygen, but if I wave my hand around, I can feel it.
it has atoms.
Yeah, and I can taste
But
it.
it's a particle, and a particle isn't like physical. You know
No,
what I
it's-
mean? Like you can't grab the particle. Like you are the particle. You can't grab the particle.
Well, I disagree. I think I can. I think I'm holding. I think there's air between my hand right now.
But air isn't being held in your hand. There's just gaps in your fingers which allow air to exist.
But what I feel like what Trent's trying to say is that energy, that substance is necessarily spirit. It all is encompassed in spirit. When you mean spirit, you mean that as well. It's just another word for it.
That's a personal take. So
No, I respect it. I would say where I diverge with that and where I diverge with Descartes, who really developed this idea between spirit, it's called mind-body dualism. That the mind is something, spirit is something not material, and the body is something physical and it is material. And this is what existentialists do. They go, hold on. Who said that they were anything different? Who said that the conscious spirit isn't really a physical thing, but also not existing?
okay.
And then who said that the physical was something real and something that maybe not existing?
Okay.
And so when you punch that together, you go, well, and this is what phenomenology is I don't experience something that is inexperienceable. I might be, like, some people say they experience God, but that's having an experience to experience something. But if I don't, when going through my daily life, I don't experience something that is outside of the world. Like, even if I do shrooms and I get super high and see something, I'm still experiencing something that's experienceable.
So do you believe
Like, the fact that I
in the
can't
quantum?
experience-
Do you believe in the quantum?
Yes.
Okay,
But
so
I think spiritualism and quantum,
they correlate.
they're very
They
different.
do correlate.
I would disagree.
It's just a land of mirrors. Everything mirrors itself in quantum, and it's the same thing with your body and your astral body, is that you're feeling it on some level.
An anchor.
But I think the anchor doesn't need to be something other than me. And I don't ever experience the anchor as being something other than me.
Right. Have you ever had dreams?
Yeah.
So dreams, would you say, okay, so mathematically, imaginary numbers can turn into real numbers, right? And
Right.
you see imaginary ideas get turned into real ideas all the time.
Right.
Right.
Invention.
Phrases,
Right.
numerology, angel numbers, those were inventions. Somebody made that idea up.
Right.
It didn't just like people correlated a connection mathematically to something and attributed whatever experiences through life they can attain to leave into that story. It's a game of telephone, I believe, with our words and some of the things that we have.
But it all stems from intention and belief. Intention and belief are the two motors driving existence, I feel. To expand on that is everything that I do has an intention behind it. And the thing driving that is whether I believe I can do it or if I believe that I can't do it.
That has a big factor to do with success, for sure.
Success
If you-
or in doing really anything. If someone doesn't believe they can do anything, will they ever accomplish it?
It's unlikely. But essentially, I think that, so to bring back to the topic of unification, okay?
Okay.
My personal perspective on like a unified society and what that looks like is something where free thought and free expression have clear ways. Obviously, we're not talking about hate speech. That is not what I'm talking about. That can go with the old past we're talking about. What I'm talking about is when a kid has an idea, the actual adult thinks of the idea instead of dismissing the idea because they're used to dismissing ideas. And I think that's kind of where Kurt gets into some of his stuff as well. Me and Kurt differ as well a little bit in our own ways. I try to be more of like a practical person with things, very mathematical and drawn out. But, that's what I'm saying. Like, I appreciate his way of thinking because without it, we wouldn't be able to do half the things RTR does. And that's the magic in humans, I believe.
I'm a firm believer in manifestation and in numerology. Numerology is a driver of manifestation. Knowing the science behind it, that kind of dives into quantum a little bit and the 369s. The ultimate number of the universe, just a simplified version, the 3 is the triangle is the strongest element in nature. It's found all in nature and in particles. It's the trio, all the way up into spirit bodies, and you talk about the trio, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's pretty much all around you, and it's all encompassing. It's the building block, the 3, the 6, and the 9, and there's supposed to be you can really dive into it in like 9 different realms, 9 different dimensions. It's all numbers that play a part also in the spiritual and manifesting. So it's all connected in its own way. To just be that.
Okay.
But I know that, but that's why I feel like free will is a united cause. But what I was gonna ask Travis was, in his ideal unification, where does he see boundaries coming into play? To be like, okay, so don't step past this line. If everybody else wants ketchup, who's to say that this person can't take the ketchup instead of my ideology is like, okay, just make more ketchup. How do you combat them taking the ketchup? Going back to yours, like say another person wants ketchup, how do you combat them just taking the ketchup? Would you set a boundary, or do boundaries even come to play in that mindset?
How harsh does it go?
I think, and this is kind of where you might get into existentialist, like morality, and maybe even like justice, because in a book by de Beauvoir, who's an existentialist, she talks about how freedom is morally good.
Okay.
And so limiting somebody's freedom is bad.
Right.
And so if I say, this is my ketchup, don't take my ketchup.
Okay.
And you take my ketchup, you're limiting my freedom in the sense that you're taking what I asked you not to beyond my will. Like you're making me something smaller so you can take something from me.
Right.
And I think boundaries fundamentally is morality. Because boundaries is really just someone expressing a boundary, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
and you not respecting it is violating them personally. They asked you not to do it, and now you're violating them by doing it.
Right.
And so you gotta. That's bad, and that's morality. That's right and wrong. You are violating them by taking their things that they asked you not to take, which is emotionally hurting them. So you have done something bad.
Oh.
And I think a boundary is just a clear talk, like it's clearly saying it. It's like, I don't want you to do that.
Okay.
Like I could cross your boundaries, right?
Yeah.
But if I touched you weirdly, you had not told me not to, right?
Right. There was no clear boundary set to intent.
Exactly.
To begin with.
But if you said, Travis, don't touch me, and then I touched you anyway, it's even worse.
Right.
Because you not only did I know I wasn't supposed to touch you,
Exactly.
I touched you anyway.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
so going back to the law of, I feel like abundance kind of combats that. If I may, let me stem off a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like abundance kind of combats that. So where it's like, okay, well, let's just work together to get, this is where the unification comes in as well. Let's just work together to get more ketchup. Or in your scenario, quantum realm, there's a million different Trents that I can touch. There's a million different scenarios where I could touch Trent and different things happen. How do you get a gaze on which one is right?
You engage on which one is right because you engage on his experience. If I dap him up, I'm touching him, but he this is socially, this is something we like. This is something we do.
Yeah.
But if I were to, touch him inappropriately,
Absolutely not.
his experience, based on his experience, he would tell me this is wrong.
Right.
And this is a really key about a crime. There has to be a victim.
Okay.
There has to be somebody that has something wrong done.
You can't.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right. So
absolutely.
you don't think. All right, Trent. This one's for you as well. So there could be a perfect world and a perfect scenario where y'all have the perfect dap up, the perfect chemistry because you both already know what is okay and what is not okay. You both already mentally know what is okay and what is not okay. That's what I feel like the new age thought form is going to shift into, to where it's just conscious knowing, to where you hit that perfect dap up. You're not like, you don't even feel the sense to touch him in an inappropriate way because you already know that he doesn't want to be touched like that. And I feel like we could get to a point to where we know that without morality, that it would just be knowing.
I don't think that's possible because morality is based highly on our culture. What's right for us is what's right for us as Americans in America,
Right.
or people in wherever we are.
Yeah.
Just like people eating guinea pig in Ecuador. We see guinea pigs as pets here, but it's a delicacy there. So what's
Yeah.
right and what's wrong?
Right.
Some people would say eating pets is wrong, but they do it, and I've tried it,
And what's
it's
a
pretty
pet?
good.
And what's a pet to somebody somebody else?
And so, if morality works in this way, it's always changing. And if everyone knows what's right or wrong, which is impossible because they would have to know all situations, and I don't know how you would know all situations in history. You can't. But you would also, but then it would leave nothing open to change and free will. Because free wills could be then decide that this thing that used to be bad is no longer bad.
Right.
Just like BDSM.
Okay.
Like people, like I don't see BDSM as a bad thing between two consenting people.
Right.
But 50 years ago it would have been outrageous.
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago it would have been outrageous. And so it doesn't leave us open for any change if we all just know it. And that's just not how morality, and that's just not how right and wrong work.
But
if you are an idealist and say that there's always an ideal right and wrong, then I could see how you could become, but that would require a whole lot of stuff.
But it's almost instinctive. Like you see that we might think that we have the moral high ground as humans, but wolves don't attack their own pack. And not even doing that, there's things that we are naturally born with that are instinctive. Have y'all seen the videos of babies naturally swimming, like coming out of the womb being able to swim? It's because they've already been inherently doing something since before they were in the womb.
But I think the problem with that is that morality, I don't think is one of those things.
I
think morality requires.
So
Wait,
if you believe
Wait.
in the DNA and the genetics of being passed down, so if the right thing to do, the morally right thing, or we evolved to get the right thing to do, keeps getting passed down, it would be almost as swimming, just doing good.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that would require millions of years, and a complete
maybe a restructure of society, but I feel like humans are born inherently good. And maybe that may be wrong of me. Not.
real quick on this podcast. This is great talking points right now.
Okay.
Some of the noises in the background you're hearing right now is my lovely girlfriend. Her name's Persephone.
Oh, goodness.
And
Hi.
she's going to say hi.
I'm cooking right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would join in on the conversation.
Yeah.
But
So,
I'm going to get back to cooking.
okay.
Out of choice, everyone. It's out of choice.
But yeah, she's very intelligent too. Maybe she'll be on the podcast one of these days.
Very cool. Very intelligent.
This leads us all to this age-old question. This leads us to this age-old question that we all have to answer, because this stems off of, if we want to have any perfect society, we have to know, are humans born inherently good or not?
Yes.
Okay, so Persephone said yes.
But that depends on what you think is good.
Okay, so okay, I'm gonna go into 2 parts here. All right, this is a 2-parter. Okay, theoretically, in a spiritual sense, yin and yang. If we're going by like ancient spiritual teachings, kids under the age of 6 in some cultures that I know of are like, they're like tax-free on the whole sin thing.
Right.
So they're kind of like, because they're too young to be aware of their surroundings, they're in a hypnotic state.
Right.
So they, like, literally children, when they're from like this early age, they will be in a REM hypnosis area. So that's why kids are so aware.
They have more imagination.
And they copy movements. They learn from their environment. They're in a hypnotic state. Most people don't know that. That's why it's really important at a young age to show the right hypnotic actions to the child. If you really want the child to turn out the way that you want the child to turn out, like, some people will dress their child and do all these things, and that's awesome and all, but then the kid's not really learning. It's being more treated like a Barbie doll in some aspects, and that takes away its individual freedoms, I would argue, right? Even though it might not be able to speak, we know from 1 to 6, if it's in a hypnotic state, treat it with care. But at the same time, if you're the parents, they love it and they're doing it out of love, right? It's different, and we have to understand and respect the boundaries, but also try to be like, bring awareness to all things, so that way the person can develop the way they want to develop, right? But they understand everything. They have the ability to go down any path that they desire, but we have the understanding as a society, because we talk amongst ourselves, that this is not good. This was awesome. And so people naturally, through hypno and through society, will want to replicate what's good and not be shamed for bad. And people naturally shame through society over time. So it's like the goal.
If society doesn't like it, they're going to socially condemn you or socially out you if, as a whole, they don't like the behavior of the person.
So Persephone was saying that society can condemn as a whole if the behavior of the person is unjust in the societal concept or not morally standing, right? Which can bring issues. That is also an issue too, but then it's like that comes into question of who have we put leaders in positions of power? How have they become leaders in positions of power? What has the cycle been? I would argue of conquerors. You know what I mean? It's not really of just like super nice people being elected into a place. In history, it's been people who are like, I don't want to listen to you. We're going to hold our ground, and if we win, we're going to kill you all. Or it's like, we're going to conquer you before you know you're being conquered, and then that's wrapped. Society has never like extended wars. You see extended conflicts, those are like the bad ones. And like history, those are like 30 years war, 100 years war, right? Like even World War II had more bodies, but we had more population and new weapons. And I would argue like PTSD for somebody watching, imagine we're best friends, right? And we ride into battle together, like ancient medieval times, armor-adorned, where these noble knights you're talking about, okay? And like we're both riding into battle, and you see my horse get a spear, and then it hits me through the leg. So you know I'm already hurt. You know what I mean? And then I fly off the horse, and then you watch me get trampled. Close range. You're watching every horse step on my skull. Game of Thrones style, right? Just a random death out of nowhere. You're like, this guy's gonna make it. This guy's got it. Boom, trampled. Right?
Holy crap! Holy crap!
And then you get the clash. And then let's say, Kurt's fighting too, and Kurt has a cousin fighting in the battle, right? And Kurt's cousins get his arm cut off. He doesn't die, but he watches his arm get like hit by an axe halfway through to the bone. Terrible stuff, you know what I mean? As opposed to like, yeah, we see limbs blow up, but things happen in a split second, as opposed to looking someone this close in the face. The camera will see like this close in the face with the intent of I'm going to murder you. That whole level is a different thought process than like soldiers, I believe, can understand nowadays. You sit 100 yards away, you see someone who's wearing an opposite uniform, you shoot them. Back then, we see someone wearing the opposite uniform at us, charge. We're getting 20 feet in length, and we're throwing spears at each other longer than the couch almost. And that's gonna pierce my chest. Like, war was brutal. Like the idea, and that's kind of what we went into. Like, some of life was absolutely brutal.
Okay, well, back on track. Travis, what do you think? Are humans born inherently good?
I think humans are born without access into either. I think humans are born as objects.
Okay.
I think we're born just nothing like an animal. Like, you wouldn't say an animal is doing good or bad, or is good or bad, because an animal doesn't have an experience that's able to choose between doing this good thing or doing this bad thing. It's not choosing; it's just doing.
It's reacting.
And especially when we're first born, we are simple objects, just like those animals. We are doing things, and we're not choosing. But there does become a point where we do choose, and once we begin to choose, then we got to gauge whether this person is good or bad. And once we choose, and really we can only say somebody is good or bad, any human, at the end of their life, once they're dead, because then we can add up how much good things they did and add up how much bad things they did and go, this person is good, this one is bad. But only after they're dead, because in the beginning, you're neither.
Can I ask you kind of a personal question? Yeah. And then Kurt, you can answer on this too, and then I'll answer if I don't know. But essentially, when you were a little kid, like past the age of hypno, right? What were you able to be like, this is right or wrong? And we know right or wrong is subjective to people. Right. But like, were you like, this is right, this is wrong, based on your surroundings and based on what you were learning, that you actually believed and you stood on your morals of trying to do right? I think that's like the focus is, like, every kid, every person is raised different, and it's all different. But if they're genuinely trying to do the right thing, and then they like learn, let's say they learn over time what they're doing is unjust, or the society they're living in is unjust, well, then you have two options, in my opinion, right? And I don't know the philosophical terms, but I see it almost like you can choose to separate yourself from society, and it doesn't have to be one specific way, right? Because separation can be done, it's more of a chaotic thing. It can be done in any form of ways. Or you could choose to stay with that. And I would argue, like, if you knew there was a tyrannical system and you knew there was something unjust going on and you chose to stay in it, you are just as unjust as the injustice.
Well, it depends.
It depends. Because
it depends on one if they know. Like, you're saying...
That comes into it as well. But we're saying the knowledge of right or wrong and based on the...
let me give you an example. What would you say to a Jewish Nazi who's killing other Jews, and the only reason he's a Nazi is because...
someone made it.
No, it's because he got through and they didn't know he was Jewish, and now if he tries to escape, they're going to kill him.
Okay.
I feel like that takes you right back to intentions and beliefs. What is his intentions and what is his beliefs?
Right, because then I would argue if we're willing to serve for this Nazi party, right, and we're gonna adorn the uniform, and people are gonna die while I'm wearing this uniform, right? Who should die? Who do you want to die? The impact might look small, but I would argue, but this is based on my.
You're also talking on a matter of, sorry guys.
Oh,
You're also talking on
go
a
ahead.
matter of like, if that person's life is more valuable over the hundreds of people they're going to kill. And in that case, I would say no, because it's hundreds of people or that one person. Now, to that one person, their life is obviously going to be more meaningful to them. But knowing that they're like a Jewish person who has to kill Jews because that's the law in like Nazi era, I feel like that person morally would have just chosen to kill themselves or let themselves be killed.
Or be a partisan and try to free people.
You're gonna get killed that way.
But
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay, I gotta get back to the burgers.
But then it goes into we all die, right? Death is inevitable.
Well, yeah,
So then what are we dying for? That really counts for what we're remembered for, right? The person who killed the 100 Jews to save himself, and that story of survival, or the story of sacrifice to free 20 Jews, and let's say he, because we're talking about values of life here, let's say he alone could have cured cancer, right? Very valuable to all of society. But now he's dead because he wanted to do and be the right person.
All right.
Versus
So I think this leads.
there's
I think this.
aspects to
I think this leads back to my belief.
Person would rather die
Oh,
than live on killing other people who are of like their own.
We getting intense
All right.
here at the RTR podcast. That's
Let-
how you know this is
Okay.
real out here.
Okay. All right. So I believe that this heads back to my belief that humans are born inherently good. Okay, so I got 3 words for you. It's a trilogy. You feel me? You got science terms, instincts. You have the spiritual term, intuition. Then you have the Christian term or the Gnostic term, spirit, the Holy Spirit. These are things that guide you into a right direction, that is said that you're born with, that guides you into a right direction, a moral direction. And while these things are guiding you, you have this thing that swings in like a knight in shining armor. And this thing is called purpose. So do you believe in purpose? Purpose has such a big role in life if you allow it. Purpose. My purpose. Because if you follow your intuition, you'll be led to purpose. If you follow your instincts, you can be led to purpose. And this purpose could be a uniting source that leads us to the unification that we seek.
True.
Yeah.
I would say, what's the will of purpose? I would say,
What will you die for? That is your purpose. Your purpose is the thing that you will die for.
I don't think you necessarily need to die.
That's a heavy question because
That's a purpose.
I think he's
That's what a
arguing
purpose is. That's
do you
what a
believe
purpose
in it?
is.
If you're not willing to die for it, do you really believe in it?
Yeah.
That's what a purpose is.
I
A
wouldn't
lot of
live-
people
I
don't
wouldn't
have
die
purpose.
I wouldn't die for capitalism,
Okay.
but
So it's like
I
when you
still have to believe in it because I live in it.
right.
What you're defining.
Yeah. So like in a base term, if you knew that
So
you
no,
knew that
so
if you
so
saved
this
group
is
of
this
people,
is
that
this is
everyone else lives, right? That
No.
everyone
I have
lives,
to
right?
I have to clarify the question for you. I have to clarify the question. Okay, so it's not just capitalism, I would die for it. Purpose is more so if there was nothing else on this planet, if there was nobody else for this planet, on this planet, what would I live and I die for? If there was no other outside interaction, direction, what would I live and what would I die for? If no one else had a say.
Who is Travis? Who is Travis?
But I don't think you can do that because I think my purpose is strictly based upon what my experience is. My personal purpose as Travis is going to have everything to do with capitalism, because sure, and this comes into what I think about purpose. I don't think purpose is something that we're born with. I think that purpose is something we create over time. That purpose, like whatever my purpose was, you'll only know until after I'm dead. Because whatever I created, that was my purpose, because at the end of the day, that's who I was.
I can counter that.
I couldn't have been nobody else, because that was my purpose.
But like,
I can disagree with that for one of the first times. I can disagree with you, Travis, because if my purpose was from being born, I want to fly. I want my free will to fly. It kind of loops around. I want my free will to fly. Nobody else can be deciding that or determining that, but I could still be fighting for that same free will that I can right now in my chair. I could be fighting for that same exact free will with nobody else, if nobody else on this planet was here.
I disagree, because the only way you would think of that is in communion with other things. If you were the only thing on this planet, say you're on like Mars, and you're the only thing, and all you do walk around all day is walk around, then you're not going to wish you were a swimmer, because you don't know what water is. There's no water on Mars.
Yeah.
You might find ice or something.
Yeah.
There's no water. And so you might wish how would I ever wish, maybe I want to be a swimmer, or I want to swim in a big ocean, if I live in an existence without water and without an ocean, or things in that ocean to even gauge what I'm thinking about.
So if I see air, that automatically equals flying?
No, if I see a bird, or I see
I wouldn't
a
have to
leaf
see a
fall
bird.
slowly
I
from
wouldn't
the
have to.
ground,
I wouldn't
or
have
throw
to see a
something in the
bird.
air,
I wouldn't have to see a bird.
but you'd have to see something go through the air.
You would think so?
Yeah.
On a physical standpoint.
Yeah, because if you don't know anything can fly, why would you ever think things could fly? Like Galileo didn't think of gravity because out of nowhere he thought of it, because even though this is not really why he thought of it, but they say because the apple fell. He saw something fall and then invented the way to look at why it fell.
I've never seen somebody fly, but I believe I can. I've never seen somebody fly, but
I believe that because you know things can fly.
Not humans.
That doesn't matter. You know things can fly, so you're going to invent an apparatus to give you the ability to fly.
Well, here's a proposal. What about if there were people who could breathe underwater? Okay? You've never seen these people.
It's the same
Do you
thing.
But do you think that people can breathe underwater? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's the same exact
Oh,
thing.
I'm sorry. I'm cooking.
I agree with Persephone. It's the same exact thing. I feel like I could breathe underwater.
Okay.
Even though I've never seen it done before, I've never seen it possible, I feel like my lungs can intake and breathe underwater.
But my problem is that you only would believe that because you live on a world with water, a world which...
But if you didn't have water, you wouldn't even know what the concept of swimming
or
is.
water, or breathing
Water
underwater is. And another fact, there's fish that swim underwater, and even without the fish, if you stick your head underwater, you can't breathe. So you have to be, it's only indicative of the world that you're in. Like
Of
if
the
I
world,
live in a desert, and
I
I've never
understand
seen
that.
water,
Of the world that you're in. I can accept that. Of the world that you're in.
Yeah.
And I
So
feel
you
like
can
the
be
world
way
that
more.
you and it's even in the Bible that we were created to get dominion over this planet. In this world, what can we do with this world that we are given? So it even relates and correlates to that.
I think...
And that's
I
purpose.
think that notion, not that that's what the notion originally stood for, but I think that notion has been used and abused in the sense that Christians have used that to justify the worst things in human history. Slavery I can think of two. Slavery and the killing of indigenous peoples in North and South America. They literally believed, one of the arguments used against a priest, I forget his name, a priest who was debating whether or not they should continue slavery in Mexico for Spain. This is the king set this up, so this is very famous.
Okay.
And one of the arguments for the slavery was that they're animals, and God gave us dominion over the animals. So so they're animals, so we have dominion over them. And the same thing with black slavery. The idea was, well, blacks aren't human, and so we as Christians have dominion over the animals, and just like they're another animal,
Yeah.
we have
It was a
dominion over them.
justification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that that's the true meaning,
No.
but that's how it's been used
Yeah.
throughout history.
The interpretation to do evil.
Right.
But I think like that Kurt's not trying to do evil, and that's
Right.
kind of where we go into like purpose and intention, because it's like that had an intention of evil. So it was maybe wise words used with a half truth to do terrible things, right?
Right.
So if we could like, that's where I'm like really big on talking to people, because he's talking about flying, and I'm kind of like thinking of it a different way, right? I'm thinking of like spiritually being free, right? Where there's
My
nothing
intentions
really, like,
are to get around faster.
where it's like where there's nothing that can really just like tell you how to be and what to be and why that you should do that. And instead it's like, what do you want to be and why are you that? And instead people are listening to your story as opposed to telling you what your story is.
I agree, but I don't think that necessarily contains spirit. I think that contains.
I'm a spiritualist. I believe in consciousness, but I also believe in spirit as well. I believe that the two play hand in hand. Like, you need your consciousness in the physical body to do logical tasks, right? But your spiritual, because I've had really vivid dreams. I've had dreams that I've shared with a person, like things that aren't unexplainable, that can't be shared. Which makes it very difficult to connect in society, because when you have something that a large amount of people will not have, right? It becomes something that like a hermit, like the hermit cave, like, because you sit alone, because what you have experienced is so different than mainstream society, and because of the awareness, and because people I believe should be trying to make themselves more aware, you know that, hey, the world doesn't really, they don't understand that. That's not comprehensible. You know what I mean? That's not tangible evidence, tangible proof, and the world needs tangible proof.
Right.
And that's where science comes in.
Right.
And a lot of scientists were occultists in the early days.
Sure.
And so
It's a pipeline.
so you're talking like ancient religion had all these, and then you're talking that people who were witches were killed, right? So people who understood plants, biology. So it's like modern understanding is owned by oil tycoons and these rich investors, and they tell us a very capitalistic version, right? Instead of like this naturalistic, holistic way that has been prevalent in society up into the last 200 years until now. Most people are like, is religion even real? Why is it real? Because we live in squares, right? These are squares.
Do you want this or this?
Go ahead, choose. I'm gonna have the Colby Jack first one.
Okay.
Colby Jack?
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Colby Jack's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colby Jack, if you want to sponsor us anytime.
Which brand, though? Which brand?
I like cheese. I like cheese. I'm sorry.
I love cheese.
It's just, I don't know what it is. I have nachos once a week. It's terrible for me. Maybe twice a week.
I just eat straight cheese.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Travis is hilarious, bro. He's like, I eat straight cheese. Facts.
I get the blocks. I cut them. I put them on crackers or something.
Okay.
I'll take
Yeah,
that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what were we just talking about though before the cheese came into play?
Okay, so we could honestly take it to where do we see morality being shaped in a well-functioning government? So how do we guide in a well-functioning government based on morality and based on free will, based on the core values of who humans are today?
I've got an idea.
Okay. Let's hear it.
But I'm gonna start like this. I would actually disagree that when in the Bible they say humans have dominion over the animals, I would disagree that that was ever a good idea.
Okay.
Because even though I'm not vegan,
Right.
you know, non-human suffering, animal suffering, is just as bad.
It's just as hurtful.
It's just like you stabbing me versus a pig is going to hurt equally.
Yeah, they're gonna squeal.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna show pain.
Exactly.
They're gonna run away.
Right.
They're gonna try to maybe fight back. Each animal's different. Where like let's say there's a leopard, one leopard tries to hide, one leopard tries to run, the other leopard charges the person. Right? And that shows the same characteristics that humans show on base primal instinct. Absolutely.
I think, yeah, because if we have dominion over the animals, that then includes humans. Because humans are animals.
Right.
And if we are dominion over ourselves, that
And
justifies
that's
slavery.
where the half truth comes in,
Exactly.
the half lie, and that's where evil's done.
I feel
that-
like
that-
we
that
don't
justifies slavery.
use our dominion in the right ways. We can use our dominion over a lion to make him not kill the other human standing right next to us, or we could use our dominion to make him kill that animal, or we could use our dominion and save all the animals like Noah did in the ark.
Or I'm
Precisely.
even more radical. I think we should not even have the dominion.
Okay.
I don't think as something that's slightly different than a chimpanzee,
Okay.
I have the right to say what is right and what is wrong for an animal.
Right.
I think me killing an animal to eat it, even though
Because you don't understand
I
its
do.
environment. You don't understand the
Its
way
existence.
it's born.
I don't understand its experience.
language. It's like, it's all
But
different.
but if you're going to go
should
into the
completely
Bible, you have to go all the way into the Bible where it goes unclean foods, where the foods that you can eat and the foods that you can't eat. You have
But
to go
Kurt, I
deep
kinda-
into it. And then when you're talking about dominion over animals, it's what are your intentions? What are your beliefs? What are you doing with the animals? What is backing you? What is your purpose
disagree.
for even
So,
having the
think-
animals?
I want to go into
Because
this
if you're like Noah and you're saving the animals off the ark from the complete flood and damnation of all the animals, if you're saving them by pairs, it's a whole lot better than all of the animals getting wiped out. I'm just saying.
But I think the problem is that I don't need domination to do that. I can the domination of the animals is not what got them animals on the ark. God is what got the animals on the ark. The animals didn't go, well, you're a human, all right, we're gonna get on. No, they said God put those animals on the ark.
It's just like it was a spiritual intention.
No.
It was an energetic vibration.
He had built the right ark. He had the right staff. The rod and staff is the thing that comforts. It's the thing that guides the spirit. Moses had a staff as well to part the Red Sea because we have dominion over the waters as well. These dominions are used for purpose acts.
But my problem is that I think having dominion is wrong within itself. I think, I might say me, Travis, owns Trent. He's my slave.
Okay.
I have dominion over you. My intention might be to take care of you for the rest of your life. My dominion over you, inherently, nonetheless, is still wrong.
Right.
I should not have dominion over you.
Right.
Just like Moses only had dominion over the waters to part the Red Sea.
Okay.
Sure, he might need it, but picture how many fish he killed. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
And who's to say that he didn't kill more fish
Oh my gosh.
than how many Jews he was leading out of Egypt? And that, in my eyes, if he killed as many fish, he killed more fish. It was immoral. It was immoral to kill those fish just so less pain could be had by these completely other people.
But what if it was
Other
God?
beings.
But what if it was God's intention? He's like, I'm creating this animal for him to eat. I'm creating this for him to eat. I'm creating this for him to move. I'm creating.
Then I would tell God, why the hell did he give them why the hell did he give them pain? If this is for me to eat, why give it the same pain receptors that I have?
And he says pain
Make
makes
all
it taste
animals
good. And he said pain makes it taste delicious.
Then I would rather it taste disgusting than can do complete immorality every day. Immorality, yeah.
Okay. That is definitely a different approach, but like,
Because they're not just eat plants.
see, like
Travis
I'm
is
gonna dive
asking
into,
why
like,
God.
Because I think me and Kurt, I'll just kind of do like a shout out of a next possible podcast we might be doing in the future. So I was thinking that we do like a perspective of like the Aztecs and the conquistadors, and we kind of look into the time periods of like what people were dealing with in their respective countries, their native lands, their cultures, like on an individual like and a societal basis, and then kind of the meeting point and what happened after, right?
Terrible.
Right. So then, but we look at both sides, right? It's like we know what the Spanish did, absolutely absurd and crazy. You just described some of it,
Right.
right? With like what the king was doing and what he was saying. So
But you can't forget the Aztecs.
we're sacrificing like crazy, and that's kind of where that's why I want to do like a perspective thing, is because we sit now in today where we have like this high pedestal where we can be like that was right or wrong, you know. But like back then, lines are just as convoluted as they were today now.
Yeah.
So the importance is how do we distinguish those from the empathic point of view? If we are trying to live and understand through people's shoes, right? One person here, right? We meet in the middle. What was good and what went wrong?
Exactly.
And how did it go so sideways, and where did it go so sideways?
Right.
So like one of the things that I would argue for that situation, and this is going to come up with our topics in the next podcast potentially, is that like that at that time the conquistadors had just dealt with like the Protestants, like the 30-year war. So that the Pope was like, these guys are the devil. These guys are demons. These are inspired by devilish acts, right? So to them, the Protestants was the worst of the worst. You know, the Inquisition's going on, all these things. So like, then you get into the point where it's like they go over and they meet the Aztecs, right?
Right.
And the Aztecs have like forms of ritual cannibalism.
Yep.
They are marking up their bodies in what we would see as very masochistic ways nowadays. Like most of society wouldn't understand that way of life. But like that's kind of why I think it would be important to dive into both, is because I think the Catholics, right, they came in there and they're like shell-shocked, right? They don't understand that. And instead of building a church and being like, hey, we don't sacrifice people here, and this is how it's like to plant gardens and do this and that, and here's the tools we've learned.
Or they could have been the ones, or they could have been the ones sacrificing. We never know.
I think even we have to analyze that the Aztecs empire was only maintained. One, the Aztecs were really not that old when they got conquered, but they only maintained it through war because they needed people to sacrifice, and so they conquered every place around them, and which kind of led to their downfall, which kind of led to a lot of empires' downfall.
Yeah.
But what happened was that the Spanish, who had better technology and much better technology, pulled up and was like, hey guys, that the Aztecs just absolutely fucked up and sacrificed. You guys want to help us take over the Aztecs? And they were like, of course, they just fucked us up.
Yeah.
So, and like there's even, in Mexico, there's even what's her name? There's this woman who helped and then married and had a kid with Ernesto Cortez, the leader of the conquistadors.
Yeah.
But she was originally from Mexico and helped him conquer the other places because she spoke the languages. And so she'd be a translator. And now she's looked at somebody as bad because we all obviously see the conquistadors as bad. But you also got to understand that her tribe had also been conquered by the Aztecs.
Getting their hearts ripped out.
Yes.
Warriors eating their other warriors.
So they didn't like it. So she didn't like it. So she was like, all right, I'll help you.
Yeah, and so that's...
But that's all his story. That was all his story, so
we'll get into the outro. We're going to go into perspectives on the Aztec one. We think that will be like really... It's an interesting take, because one of the things that we need to do as a society is really dive through these tough topics and not beat around the bush about it, not lie about it, and we just need to accept the flaws, but also the good things that were brought in society, because it's the good things that bring hope and bring purpose over time, right? and we can add value to these things, I believe. But Kurt, how about you do the outro? You let everyone know where they can find us. Travis, thank you for thank you for coming on, man. Yeah,
Travis, if you would shout out the IG for us, please.
Okay. My IG is whole world. It's spelled WHOL3.world. Thank you.
All right, and as we are, this concludes our 5th episode of RTR United.
Yeah.
You can check us out on Instagram at Dream Chasers RTR. We still have music coming out. We try to have it coming out for y'all weekly.
Yep.
That's Roundtable Rejects, all together, one word. Roundtable Rejects on Facebook and on TikTok as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for staying tuned, sticking to us till the end. Y'all have a great night. RTR signing out.
Signing out.